Hi, my name is Lee Wagers. I'm the director of the Tax Crisis Center, and we're an outfit that's designed to help people, that tries to help people with tax problems. Unfortunately, this episode is about Optima, who I didn't know anything about. I've been around for almost 50 years in the tax business. I've obtained my CPA, attained a law degree, had 40 years of practice. I've got the T-shirt and the gray hairs to prove it. I was unfamiliar with Optima until the client that we just had a tax problem. They were scammed out of $150,000 in business losses. She was scared, so she hired an attorney to help her against debtors, and that attorney hired me, because I'm a retired attorney, to help him with the tax problem. I look in the tax problem and find she filed a return herself. She didn't claim over $100,000 in business expenses. So because she had paid substantial tax on the income, she cleaned out her 401k to give to this scammer. We were able to file amended returns and get back $25,000 in federal tax plus $2,000 or $3,000 in state. Very proud of that. Along the way, because she was still scared, she hired Optima. She paid him $2,245.50 to help her. By the time I got on board, it was in June. I did all my research. We signed a power of attorney in July, and then we filed amended returns. So I went back to Optima, which they were hired in February 18th, and charged her $2,200. Now, all I did between February and April was file an extension. Between June and July, apparently nothing. Or the next 8 weeks, whatever it was, they did nothing. So my attorney and I wrote them a letter and saying, we now represent this lady, let's call her Mary, and here is our power of attorney, and this automatically revokes your power of attorney. You can no longer represent this woman legally. Well, they ignored the letter. It was on legal stationery signed by an attorney. They ignored it. So then another gentleman, she was first assigned to an enrolled agent in California. Enrolled agents are great technicians. They study for years. They know all the, the book learning of the IRS. But I don't know how much more than that. But they can pass a difficult test. But this lady did nothing. She had the case capacity to do something, but she did nothing. Then she was bounced to another guy after Mary calls him up and says, "You're fired." This new guy calls up Mary and says, "Well, we don't know if we can do that." I asked in the attorney letter to send the unearned portion of their fees, which I assume was most of the $2,000. They couldn't prove they did anything. The next guy, after the EA, says, "Well, no, we'll have to turn it over to the executive committee." So we write the executive committee and say, "I'm sorry, you no longer represent this committee, this woman." And they once again completely ignored our representation. They called up the client and said, "Well, we think we can get you 15% of your fee back," which of course is BS. And so I wrote their executive committee and said, "This is BS. You haven't done anything to earn this fee. Please return most of this woman's money, her unearned fees." Well, they shifted it. They once again ignored me completely and my attorney friend completely and turned it over to the next guy. And the next guy dodged all the way around our attorney representation and called the client personally to say, "Well, were you represented?" And I mean, she wasn't. She was represented, but they confused her, and basically acted like she wasn't represented with an attorney, and then they pass it on to their chief counsel, who's like the fourth guy in this chain of denial. So I write to the chief counsel or a senior counsel in Optima writes me and says, please don't contact our client, blah, 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 yada, yada. Well, I wrote him back and said, A, this lady is represented by counsel. B, here's an attorney letter saying so. C, going around an attorney's representation is a violation of ethics. It is completely unethical. So what on earth are you doing? Fourthly, return our money because you can't prove you did anything. So this guy gave me just nothing. Finally, I write him the whole letter from beginning. And this is the case I'm going to go in the course with against Optima. I take away, you represent a woman, do nothing. I represent the same woman and get her a $28,000 refund. Now let's go to court. I really want to show why you earned your $2,000 fee. It should keep all of it when you did zip. Let's go. I'd love to have that on record. He immediately folded his tent because he's chief counsel and said, fine, you're going to get $2,000 of the $2,200 back. I said, fine. So we signed a settle agreement. He says it'll be there in 10 days. Was it there in 10 days? Hell no. You know, I called him 15 days later, so where is the dang check? And he goes, oh, I'll give you the routing number of a check, blah, blah, blah. So I had to threaten him again to get the check on his settlement agreement. He's already signed. I mean, the problem, this is what I saw of Optima. They may have some talent in the organization. They may have a few attorneys. I think there's about a dozen in the organization. Maybe a few CPAs, maybe a bunch. But those weren't the people in charge of this case. The people in charge of the case was a bunch of bureaucrats trying to defend themselves. They spent hours defending themselves and not one iota of energy defending the client. I mean, it's really irritating. I mean, if they want to sue me for libel, well, truth is an absolute defense to libel. So let's go because I got it in writing and they know it. So the point is, Optima spends a lot of money on advertising and apparently very little on taxpayer representation. Maybe they solve a lot of cases if they do good, because they can do a lot of good. People are scared of the IRS. That's why they hire a fireman to come put out the fire. But when the fireman says, now I've earned my fee, there's no fire. When there is a fire, you know, that's just unconscionable. So anyway, I have nothing good to say about Optima. They spent all that energy defending themselves instead of their taxpayer. And I feel that's just pitiful. You know, that's just pitiful. I spent a lifetime defending taxpayers, and you don't have to scam them. You don't have to steal their money. You can't fix everybody. So taking a fee from everybody is silly. You know, you can't fix everybody. But the people you can sleep really well at night. At any rate, my feeling is if you have a problem with Optima and can't solve it, you can send it to us and say, okay, this is what Optima did to me. Can you help? Truthfully, I don't know. I'm not looking to put Optima down or put you up. I'm looking to get better client service for people that are in trouble in this country. And if the biggest one is this lousy, then that's not good. Anyway, this is Lee Wagers, Tax Crisis Center. Peace out.